Kevin called in the morning to tell me that Marcy had passed away during the night.
Did Kevin say that receiving some money would be helpful?
Yes.
That is Marcy West's mother. Imagine that, having to bury your daughter who was only 49 years old. How did she die? That's the question. The prosecution says her husband strangled her to death. His defense team says she died after having a seizure that might have been put into motion from a therapeutic massage the night before. Let's watch some testimony from Marcy's mother. Here we go.
Mrs. Mulder, where do you live?
I live in Eugene, Oregon.
Okay. And how long have you lived in Eugene?
Since 1980.
Okay. And did you know someone by the name of Marcy West?
Yes, I did. Marcy was my daughter.
Okay. And what was Marcy's date of birth?
July 14th, 1975.
All right. And did you know someone by the name of Kevin West?
Yes.
And was Kevin married to Marcy?
Yes.
When did they get married?
They got married about 2010. I want to say 10, 20, no, 2000.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I don't know the exact.
That's okay. They've been married a while. Is that fair? Okay. Were they legally married?
They were indeed.
Okay. And how many children did they have together?
They had 2 children.
And is that Megan and Ted?
Megan and Ted.
Okay. Who's the older?
Ted is the oldest.
Okay. And how old is Ted now?
Ted would be 22.
Okay. And how old is Megan?
Well, Megan has passed away. When she was living, she would have been, 48?
Oh, not Marcy.
Oh, Megan.
Megan, yeah.
I'm sorry.
How old is Megan?
How old is Megan? Around 20.
Okay. And are Ted and Megan their biological children?
Yes, they are.
Now, when did Kevin and Marcy move to the Washougal residence that they were at the time of Marcy's death?
Oh, it was 2018, I believe.
Okay. And how often would you visit them at that residence?
How often, excuse me?
How often would you visit that home?
We would visit as often as we could. My husband and I were long-haul truck drivers, and whenever we would come to town, which could be once a month, twice a month, once every 6 months, but we would always try to stop and visit, say hi.
Okay. And what was your relationship like with Kevin?
My relationship with Kevin was fine.
Okay.
He was, yes, it was fine.
Okay. And how often were you speaking with Marcy in the couple of years leading up to her death?
Marcy and I spoke nearly every day. In fact, she would get a little put out if I didn't check in.
Okay. And was Marcy aware, or at least suspicious, that Kevin was having an affair?
I believe so, although I must say she did not speak to me about it.
Okay. Well, what is it that makes you believe she knew?
Well,
Your Honor, I'm going to object. It calls for speculation. What's this thing?
Did you take a trip with Marcy in October of 2023?
I did.
And where did you go?
We went to California to attend a family wedding.
Okay. And how was Marcy behaving during that trip?
Marcy spent most of the time on her phone, but not talking on her phone. She was just poking around her phone, and I don't know, this is speculation, but
Objection, non-responsive at this point.
All right, you've answered the question. Listen to the question asked and answer that question.
The night prior to her death, did you speak with Marcy?
I did.
And approximately what time did you speak with her?
About 7:30.
Okay. And what did Marcy tell you?
Well, we spoke for just a brief moment about the fact that my husband and I had both finally, after several years, developed COVID. And that was my reason for calling her. And then we just spoke casually, and then she said, well, she said, I've got to go. We're going to have Chinese food and watch a movie.
Okay. And how confident are you that it was at 7:30?
Oh, not very, but I don't know. It couldn't have been too much before, after.
Okay. Do you remember previously indicating it was 5:30?
Objection, improper, refresh recollection.
Proper to impeach your own witness, overruled.
Do you remember previously indicating it was 5:30?
I could have, and if I had had the phone, that would have been more correct than
Okay.
7:30, of course.
Okay. So somewhere in that evening time frame.
Yes.
Okay. Now, how did you, when you spoke with Marcy, did she complain at all of a headache or anything like that?
No.
Okay. After Marcy's death, well, how did you learn of Marcy's death?
Kevin called
Okay.
in the morning to tell me that Marcy had passed away during the night.
Okay. Is that the morning of January 8th of 2024?
Yes.
And what did he tell you during that call?
He told me that he had awakened to her having a seizure and that he had called 911 and had the EMP people come to his home and that they had worked very hard to save her.
Okay.
Oh, doesn't your heart just break for this sweet woman to have to lose her daughter, then have to come into criminal court, a very unpleasant place, and have to give testimony in this trial before a jury who's going to decide whether or not your daughter's husband is responsible for her death? That is the question. Did the husband do this? Or did this just naturally occur from a seizure? Let's bring in criminal defense attorney and former prosecutor Lindsay Richards watching along with us this hour. Lindsay, good morning to you. Tell us how you see this case. You do criminal defense work now. You've served as a prosecutor, looking at it objectively. Tell us whose story you find more compelling and why, please.
Well, from what I've read, and I will say I have not seen any testimony or heard any testimony yet from the autopsy or like the ME or any medical professionals. And I think that's going to be the most telling testimony in this case because strangulation is very clear in an autopsy. You usually, they dissect the neck and they go through all of the tissue, and oftentimes there is clear indication of strangulation on the neck within the tissue, and you can tell by those injuries what really occurred. And it will not make sense that this was a seizure and with those types of strangulation injuries. That just doesn't track. So once we hear that testimony, I think that's really going to tell this jury everything that they need to know about whether this was a strangulation or whether this was the seizure and the medical episode that the defense is claiming. But that's going to really be the key piece of evidence in this particular case. And it is such an intimate crime, so I understand why they're bringing in all of the stuff about their marriage and his affairs, but that's going to tell us everything we need to know, that the medical experts.
Yeah, definitely, Lindsay. This guy who was cheating for a long time. He's an admitted cheater. He's a confessed cheater. Everybody knows he cheated. He didn't confess it right away. It only happened after apparently people were calling and saying, look at this case closer, look at this closer. And, and that's kind of what prompted the police to go back and interview him again. And then, there was another autopsy done. And so at first glance, everything seemed to be what he was saying it was, just a seizure. Let me ask you this, Lindsay. He acknowledged that she had no medical history of seizures. None, no history. And now we know the defense is that she would regularly get these therapeutic massages. So I'm wondering, okay, so on this one instance, the day you're going to leave her and serve her with your divorce papers, suddenly the massage doesn't work out so well, and suddenly she suffers from a seizure. It doesn't seem to stand to reason, does it?
No, it all seems to be a little bit too convenient for his defense, that all of a sudden this massage on this date at the same time that he's leaving, all of these things occur. And it makes sense that if he was having an affair and planning on leaving her, that there would have been some sort of argument that could have escalated to a point where strangulation occurred. Now, all of that being said, it's very common that a defendant, a suspect, is not going to automatically admit to an affair because they know how that looks. And so that's not necessarily the only piece of evidence that points to his guilt. But again, if the injuries themselves, the scientific evidence aligns with strangulation, I don't know if they're going to be able to have an expert that explains it away as a seizure. Now, a contusion on the back of the head, yes, of course, that could be from a seizure or that deep tissue massage or therapeutic massage. But the injuries on the neck there's only one way that those can be explained, and that's by a strangulation.
Lindsay Richards, I'm so glad we have you here today. Thank you much. Stand by, please. We're going to hit a break. We're going to hear more from Marcy West's mom. We're also going to hear from her sister-in-law.
And then I knew she was having a seizure, and I got her out of bed, and I called down and watched.
He gave her one of these incredible Ted West massages.
He told me he had been seeing somebody, and he said that, she was willing to wait for him for however long it took.
It's a well-tried case on both sides. You have good attorneys posturing some good legal theories. How did Marcy West die? We've got more testimony from her mom. This is so heartbreaking. Let's go back in.
During that conversation, did the topic of money come up?
During that conversation, no.
Did the topic of money come up in a later conversation?
Yes, we spoke several times that day, and it did.
Okay. And that would be the same day, January 8th?
I believe so, yes.
Okay. And can you tell us what it is that was said?
Well, in the process of trying to be helpful, I asked if there was anything at all that we could do, and the topic of money arose from that conversation, and from that conversation, yeah.
Did Kevin say that receiving some money would be helpful?
Yes.
Okay. And did you go to Washougal to bring Kevin money?
Yes, but we could not, because of the COVID, we were not allowed. We didn't leave our home until Thursday when we were able to get negative readings on the COVID. But we went on that day, and it was fairly near Kevin's birthday, so we left a check and a birthday card.
Okay. Did you give Kevin the check?
Yes.
And what did he do after you gave him the check?
We left soon after, but I believe that he also left soon after to maybe cash the check, put it in the bank.
Did he leave before you left?
I think we all sort of left at the same time.
Okay. Do you remember how much the check was for?
Yes, I do. It was $4,000.
Okay. And are you aware that almost all of Marcy's belongings were disposed of besides what the children took?
I'm sorry, would you?
Are you aware that almost all of Marcy's belongings were disposed of besides what the children took?
Yes.
Did Kevin ever ask you whether you wanted any of Marcy's belongings?
Objection, relevance.
Sorry.
Objection, relevance. Overruled.
Did Kevin ever ask you whether you wanted any of Marcy's belongings?
He did not.
Are there things that you would have liked to have had?
Objection, relevance.
Okay.
Were you ever invited to a birthday party for Kevin in January of 2024 at the residence after Marcy's death?
I can't remember. Yeah, we could have.
You say you talked to Marcy a couple times on the 7th, is that right?
At least twice, I believe 3 or 4 times.
Okay. And the last call you say was maybe 7:30, maybe 5:30, you're not sure?
No, excuse me. I'm mixed up on dates. I spoke to Kevin on the day that he called to say that Marcy had passed away. I talked to him at least 3 times, maybe 4.
Let me clarify. I was talking about the day before when you talked to Marcy.
I know you were, and I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. So when you talked to Marcy and she said, I guess we're going to have noodles and chicken and watch TV, or Chinese food.
Chinese. She says, I think we're going to have Chinese and watch a movie.
Okay.
Yeah.
And she seemed okay?
Yes.
Yeah, so she wanted to get off the phone so she could go have Chinese.
That's right.
All right.
Redirect.
No.
Can the witness speak to you?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, free to go.